Estimation by rounding. In this lesson, you'll learn to estimate sums, differences, and products quotients using rounding. Let's take a look at this example. Wild horses can be found throughout the United States. Table shows the number of wild horses living on public lands in 5 western states. About how many wild horses are living on public lands in these 5 states. So in Nevada, there are 30,798 wild horses, Wyoming 4,115, Oregon 1,891, Utah 1,884, and in California you have 1,745. Okay, the key word that I want to emphasize here is the word about. In terms of finding out what we need to know, asking about how many wild horses are living on public lands in these 5 states, and this word will tell you that estimation is required. Okay, so to estimate the number of wild horses, you can use rounding. Round each number to the nearest 1,000 and then add. So if you round it to the nearest 1,000, okay, then add. Okay, remember the thousands place. Review. The thousands place is this one right here. That's the thousands place of those numbers. Okay, if you round to the nearest thousands place, this is what we'll get: 30,798. Okay, plus 4,115 plus 1,891 plus 1,884 plus 1,745. We round them to the nearest thousands place. We have 31,000 plus 4,000 plus 2,000 plus 2,000 plus 2,000. The number of horses will be about 41,000 horses. So about 41,000 horses are living on public lands in the 5 states. Okay, and did you know that the wild horses that we have now, all these horses that we're talking about, they are actually not native of the Americas. They were brought here by the Spaniards, the actual descendants of the horses brought by the Spaniards over 500 years ago. Okay, so that's a little bit FYI. If you see that on Jeopardy, that's the answer. All right, moving on. And if you notice, the skill that we use here was rounding, and let's review what rounding is. Okay, the rules for rounding are as follows. You take a look at the digit to the right of the place value being rounded. The digit remains the same if the digit to the right is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Round up if the digit to the right is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Okay, let's find out how this works. And the next example, we want to round 43 to the nearest tens place, and we know that the tens place is the digit 4 is the tens place. Okay, on the number line, 43 is closer to 40 than it is to 50. And then if we look at the rules for rounding, look at the digit to the right of 4, and that is 3. And according to our rule, okay, if the digit to the right is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, it remains the digit remains the same. The number 4 remains the same. So since 3 is less than 5, the digit in the tens place remains the same. 43 rounded to the nearest 10 is simply 40. Okay, this is the number line method, and this is the rule for rounding method. Okay, we would prefer this method right here because it is a lot faster for us to find the estimate than the number line method. Good example number 2, round 252 to the nearest hundreds place. Okay, again, if you graph 252 on the number line, 252 is closer to 250. Sorry, it's closer to 300 than 200 because we're asking it to be rounded to the nearest hundreds place, and this is the hundreds place right there. So it's closer to 300 than it is to 200. So this one rounds to 300. according to the number line method. But if we use the rounding method, well, it's basically the same. Look to the right, look to the digit to the right of the hundreds place. Okay, and the digit to the right of the hundreds place is 5. Okay, since the digit is 5, we round up, meaning increase a digit in the hundreds place by 1. So 252 rounded to the nearest hundred is 300. I forgot to tell you that after you round it to, after you increase the number to 3, you need to add zeros after that number. Okay? And that is example number 2. Example number 3. Take a look at example number 3. To the nearest thousands place, 9,973, and the thousands place is 9. Okay, so when we round it to the nearest thousands place, the number line method will show us that 9,973 is closer to 10,000 than 9,000, so this rounds to 9,000. But on the rounding rule method, okay, look to the digit of the right of the thousands place, and the digit to the right of the thousands place is 9 right there, so that means we need to round up. Okay, so round up, since 9 is greater than 5, that's 9,973 rounded to the nearest thousands place is 10,000. Why? Because one digit after 9 is 10. That's why it became 10,000 right there. Okay? Let's take a look at example number 4, and let's estimate the product, okay, of the quotient. When we don't need an exact answer, estimation can be a good method of finding approximate answer for a problem. So we say here, estimate the product of 7 times 64. Okay, and if we look at that carefully, we can round 64 to 60, and 7 remains the same. Multiply both of them, it is approximately 420. So the estimate answer of 7 times 64 is 420. Okay, let's estimate the quotient of 112 and 23. And we know that if we estimate that, we can round 112 to 100 and 23 to 20, and that will give us 5. Okay. Another way of doing this, how do you know when to round to 100? How do you know when to round to 20? Well, if you look at 112 and 23, okay, you need to find out. It is assumed that you know your multiplication table. You also know that by looking at 112 and 23, you know that 20 can go into 100 5 times. Okay, and that's the reason why you chose 120. They're basically what we call compatible numbers. Okay, find numbers that you can solve mentally in your head, and that's why you want to estimate, because you want to find answers. Okay, you want to come up with answers mentally in your head. Okay, you won't need a pencil and paper to be able to do this. Okay, let's take a look at example number 5. Use estimation. You can also check to see whether an answer is reasonable or not. Eduardo is shopping at Callian's department store. He purchases a bag of candy, a mechanical pencil, and a package of baseball cards. The total bill is $9.12. He gives the cashier $20 bill and receives $9.46 in change. Is this amount reasonable? So we estimate. Okay, Eduardo estimates and finds out if the change is reasonable or not. So we round to the nearest dollar amount. The nearest dollar amount, okay, is always the ones place. So when you say the nearest dollar amount, we're talking about the ones place of money, and then subtract mentally. So $20 minus 912, okay, rounds to 20 minus 9, which is around $11. Okay, and if you look at $11 and 946, it's not close. So Eduardo should have received about $11 and change. So 946 is not a reasonable amount, and then he needs to go to the cashier and complain about that. Lessons done. On Google Forms, type a summary of what you've learned by responding to the objectives of the lesson. Type a question you might want to ask about this lesson. Thank you.